Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining this live session today. I'm Rajesh Jeyaraman from Platform 3 Solutions, heading a team of core product development team at Platform 3 Solutions. And I'm excited to introduce my colleague, Mr. Harsha, who is heading the solution BU and pre-sales department in Platform 3 Solutions. Sorry, excuse me. So today we want to cover some of the exciting topic in data archival and decommissioning domain area. We want mostly this is something which people might oversee when they do the archival scenario. So we want to touch up the topic on ERP system decommissioning and archival. Um, as many of the enterprise customers will have huge systems, right from managing the materials management, finance, HR, most of the operations in the company. So this is quite a big system when it comes to ERP system. And Harsha has very extensive experience, more than a decade and a half, particularly in archival and decommission area. So together, we would like to share some of the experience we worked in past few years in archiving ERP systems. We want to discuss on some of the challenges. Within the given time, it's too hard to cover all the aspects of the time. So we would like to touch upon important aspect of the areas which will be very useful for the viewers who are watching here when they encounter with any of the decommissioning scenario with respect to ERP systems. So with that, I welcome Harsha, and I would like to hear from his words, a few words on this.
Thanks, Rajesh. It's been pleasure working with you as well. It has been a long journey so far, right? So you've been working with multiple ERP systems, and it is a great time today where we are planning to discuss certain things which will be really helpful for a lot of people who are going to watch this as a live and also post live event of the same.
Yeah. So your insights will be definitely valuable, Harsha. So let's get started straight into the topic. I First, I would like to start um, or ask you about your experience. What is your insight on when company goes for ERP system decommissioning? What is the potential impact that it will create for the business, and how efficiently the business can look out to perform the decommissioning and make the project successful? I know that it's not as easy as we think, as we see it. So I'd like to hear about few insights about that.
Absolutely, Rajesh. So basically, I would want to share one of the recent experience that we had with one of our customer who had large number of ERPs that were as part of their portfolio. So certain ERPs like legacy ERPs, PeopleSoft, JDA, Epicor, SAP. So this customer was a mid-sized manufacturing customer. By the amount of data and the volumes of transaction that they happened to have, they had so many ERPs were still getting used in their system, and certain ERPs were just lying in there just for various reasons, right? So what we were able to do is we were able to give them a complete roadmap of how they can overcome their legacy ERP data problems, how they will be able to get the data out of their legacy systems, and then be able to get a streamline how to get repository and things like that. So I would want to share certain things, key highlights of this process, right? So at the end of this activity, we were able to reduce the overall legacy infrastructure cost of the customer by 60%, right? So we were able to reduce the TCO such an extent that we were able to free up licenses cost. We were able to free up legacy dependency. We were able to free up SME requirements. and whatnot. So basically, these were a few things that we were able to, at the end of the day, be able to achieve for the customer, right? So at the very end, what we were able to also achieve is get a streamlined data archival situation in an enterprise level, and also with all this, right, data governance, right? So data governance was the main takeaway that we were able to this overall exercise.
So, see, though they are decided to take the system out and decommission, right? Still, that ERP process still intact. So, what would the customer do after? For the anyway, the operation has to happen, right? So, what would the customers do if the old system is decommissioned? Do they move the data for the new operation? They will go for different systems, or how do they manage?
Yes. Definitely. So basically, it all depends upon the strategic direction of the organization, correct? So that particular customer had a strategic ERP actually identified to which they wanted to go on a modern cloud-based deployment, and they wanted all their new day transactions and all their open transactions to be passed on to that particular ERP. And what that made is all their legacy ERPs going away, right? So that is what the current that situation was with that particular customer.
So they basically want to modernize their current
Correct.
to the move to the modernized ERP systems into place.
Yes. Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
I got it. Um, so, uh, what is the importance when it comes to archiving the ERP systems and decommissioning it?
All right. So we are talking about the modernization use case just now. So that is only one part of the ERP modernization, right? But there are a lot of legacy ERPs that are nearing end of life or already have met their end of life, and enterprises are just using those ERPs by keeping them up and running, and then they are spending a lot of dollar amounts to keep it live, right? But this, at some point of time, brings in absolute plasticity, right? So there will be there will be no flexibility. There will be the businesses will be exposed to a lot of risks in terms of security or any threats, or probably if they have any legal or a compliance issue where there are certain reports needs to be generated, it becomes really difficult if the data is still in those ERPs, right? So many customers think not to touch the ERP at the first place, right? So the main things that they think about before even touching any ERP is what happens to my data. So if I need my data at a later point in time, how will I be able to use it, right? So that's going to be a factor. And the next is my ERPs are highly customized. I cannot recreate my ERP. I cannot do any further customization, or I cannot do any data retrieval because my customizations are so deep. I am not able to understand. Right? So
Yeah.
in one other place, for example, let's say they will have deep integrations. That they will have multiple downstream systems which will be integrated with their ERP systems. And what happens is they will be very hard to break those integrations that have been built over the past multiple years of application usage. So think about these. Still keeping your ERPs just in a running condition will 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 negatively impact the enterprise, right? So they will have to spend a lot of money just to keep the ERPs running.
Yeah. Yeah, so next comes when it comes to archiving, right? There is a three-step process involved, and the three systems involved. One is a source system, and the system which is going to extract the data, and the target system. Target system is the archival compliant system, which will have its own architecture and design, and we will have the source system, which will have its own design. So while moving this, one of the biggest challenge will be the compatibility when moving the data, which will be one of the challenge. And um, The three-step process will be extraction from the source, ingesting into the target system, and finally validation that customer will look for it to happen. This while this process seems to be simple, um, the main reason we are discussing on ERP is it's not quite easy as we describe in this three-step process. Each step has its own challenge. Um, so I'd like to hear from you, like, what will be your optimal recommendation in this first step of extraction, ingestion, and putting the data into the target system. In this process, what would be your suggestions or optimal approach in dealing with this process?
Definitely, Rajesh. I'll be more than happy to explain about this. So the optimal approach is to start with your data categorization, right? So you need to understand how your data is spread across. So with the ever evolving data growth, it's imperative that data is going to even get added, and probably expand in not in if it not if not in terms of percentage, but probably multiple folds, right? So in one of our customer use cases, what we have seen is, with the current trend in their data growth, they're supposed to double up their infrastructure of data storage within next 3 to 4 years, right? So, and the next double could probably happen in the next 2 years. So that being said, as and when we are adding lots and lots of data to the applications, it is imperative that the storage requirement becomes very huge, right? And and also, it is not a very good practice to keep all the data in a very high performance storage, for example. And what we have seen with our customers is, at all times there is at the max 30% of the data is what is needed or queried by the business end users. The rest of the data can be either safely archived, removed from the systems, and then also be able to give the same business value to the business user.
Yeah. So what you are stressing on the point here is, before doing this entire process, the person or the team which is going to do this archival process has to have good hold of how the data is stored in the original system, how the data is categorized. Some basic study is a critical step before starting this activity itself. Is the one of the important point
Exactly.
that you brought out. Thanks for bringing it out. So, in line with that, I would like to hear from your input on what would be your insight, or how the data engineers who can have control or maintain the control over the data right from this extraction to the decommissioning step. What is your input on that?
Sure, Rajesh. In fact, I'm very glad that you have brought this point up, right? So, many of the enterprises don't understand on how their data gets accumulated, right? So, at times there is a backup of data and backup of the data and backup of the data of the backup, right? So, there'll be like so many multiple versions of the same data residing across, like, let's say, 5 different places, and accumulating a lot of data footprint, storage footprint, right? So the thing that I would recommend to people is to take a metadata driven approach, right? So which is very important, which ensures that the data in its entire lifespan is tracked. The data life cycle itself is fully managed. It gives the organization the full visibility of who is accessing the data, who is requesting the data, how the data is getting accessed by different people, how it is being used by different people, different levels of people. And this gives very neat data integrity. This helps to maintain data integrity. Also, it enhances the auditability of the data, which is very important for any data, right? And also, it helps in complying to many regulatory and compliance requirements. And with all of this, reducing the data loss and data risk, or data risk of misuse.
Yeah, that's an excellent point you brought up about the metadata. But when I look at in the past experience in one of the projects, right, particularly when I deal with ERP systems, collecting the metadata itself is going to be a big challenge. The reason being is that a majority of the systems we have seen never maintain the relationship or main table important metadata details in the system tables. Rather, either they will maintain it at the application layer level, or they may have it in a separate table where this configuration is maintained. For example, if you take a PeopleSoft application, right, the table relationship, everything would have been maintained in a separate table. So collecting that, understanding those system. Uh, One thing I observed is the system will be well defined. Mostly they define in terms of business objects. Like they understand the system better because they have each one have designed their system. So their arrangement of data is very good. Only challenge I see is um, getting into the collecting the right metadata from the original system, which sometimes might require manual effort or predefined understanding of the system, or sometimes we can do it automatically. Um, Main reason I see the relationship maintained at the application layer is since it's deal with a huge amount of records and crores of records, like constraint check at the database level will hamper their performance transactional system. So because of that design, there is a challenge for the archival team in order to get the right metadata out of the system and putting into the target. As you said, metadata is very important in two aspects. One is once the data is put it in the target system, customer would like to see similar results how they have fetched the records from the original system. Say for example, if an account statement is being looked at in the original system, right, they will try to replicate the same functionality in the archival, which quite I differ at some point. We need to educate customers in a different angle when it comes to archival system. We'll cover that later. But so for that, the key to understand the relationship between the tables and the columns, how the data is arranged, is very crucial. And most importantly, the data types like date time is very crucial, because at later stage of um, archival, people has to apply retention, purge, hold. For those process, the daytime fields are very critical. Sometimes people do mistakes, making it a string data type rather than the date, because of automation incapability or doing some manual metadata generation. There could be errors that could happen. These are some of the potential pain points people will detect at later stage by the time the majority of the process would have been done. So so that's the critical point that you brought up when it comes to metadata. And at the final stage, people will ask for the chain of custody, where it is the responsibility of the archival team to prove, it's not just show that, it's to prove that archived data is intact and there is no loss of any data or any characters in the system. I hope you also agree to that, Harsha. Um,
Yes, absolutely, Rajesh. Chain of custody is always very important.
yeah. So the other challenge, and that's on the metadata side, and I hope you would come across different language characters dealing. So you want to talk about anything on the multi-language characters before I share some of the inputs on my experiences?
Please go ahead, Rajesh. I'll add in.
Okay, fine. So most of the times we could encounter English language characters, some of the ASCII characters, which is very easy to deal with. When it comes to multi-language, this is um, often overlooked by the archival team, where at first thought they will not come across, like they need to validate these multi-language characters. There will be problems that will come with Arabic or um, Hebrew characters, Chinese characters. So upfront, at least precautions has to be taken by the team to validate the process, the tools that they use during the extraction and ingestion does not to handle it better. It doesn't make the data corrupt or incorrect during this transition process. So those are the crucial step when they deal with the multi-language character. I could recollect one of the interesting um, incident in one of the financial institution. They have a system, and in that they are recording. There is a call center data which they do the conversation with the end customer, and they record whatever conversation happened. If it is an email, they'll do an email. And since it is an IVR system, there is a bell sound that is, it's a character as a bell sound, which comes as part of the data. So what happened is, during extraction, this bell character also comes along with the data and it went into the target system. But when they fetched the data results, the target system was struggling because it went into problematic area because the character is non-printable character, and it leads to problem when we fetch the results. So this is one of the typical incident I could recollect um, on um, the importance of dealing with um, how the data is there. We typically think it's a normal language characters, but there could be few cases where non-printable characters, even when they asked the client, how did we get in this kind of data into the system, they are also not aware. But at the same time, we said, okay, we will remove those characters. Is it okay? But they are not agreeing to those characters. They say, no, 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 no. Whatever data is there, it has to come in the target system. Uh, when we explain about these limitations, they were asking about replacement. Okay, I will approve certain characters to be replaced in these special situations. So those are some of the things, very interesting fact which we encounter during the archive process, which people will identify at a very later stage, which if it is cautiously taken, it saves a lot of effort on that. So
Absolutely, Rajesh. And when we are speaking about complexities like these are just handful, right? So there are other significant challenges that we face when we talk about any legacy ERP systems, especially the ones that comes along with the structure of the data itself. Do you agree?
yes. So since you talked about the structure, typically there will be a straight RDBMS kind of structure, and we have seen some of the legacy systems. We always deal with a very old system, which is very 3 decades old systems, where the data is arranged in a hierarchical fashion as well. It is very challenging when we do those kind of archival. It is easy to get out of the system, but when we retrieve the results and show it to the user, right? There will be challenges in terms of how to show the hierarchical data. It can be a XML or JSON kind of structure which we can show, or which is very not typical end user experience. It will not match the experience of the end user because they would have seen in the original system typical table, child table, parent table, etc. So, so dealing with hierarchical structure is another challenge. So, what do you think about that, Harsha?
So now that we have spoken about this, I definitely need to again talk about legacy ERP, right? So most of the legacy ERPs probably followed a hierarchical data structure, just that it gave a lot of flexibility in the way the legacy programming languages were written. It actually helped them, right? So that is why people choose it. And what that means is, now when we are trying to get the data out of that type of a system, it becomes very important that we have a very good understanding on how to extract the data and also organize the data in such a way that we can use the data for modern day data retrieval use cases, right? If we don't have a foolproof approach of extracting the data, there is a risk of losing the data. And not only that, even if there are anything that is not considered properly, what happens is the data that you have taken out of those legacy systems becomes useless, right? So for these critical aspects, having a very good data analysis of your source system, having a complete understanding on how the data was, and trying and also having a better understanding of how your data will be retrieved in the future is going to help you to create a very good data archival strategy for your records.
Yeah. So on that line, right, I could recollect the indexing part at the target system plays the crucial role in order to meet the expected performance. Again, there will be challenge in retrieving the results. So generally, people will try to relate to the original systems. Like in real time, they will fetch the results and see it. But there will be a small catch when it comes to the archival system, where people should know, and the archival team has to educate customers rightly. Um, in order to meet the expected performance, some level of education also would be required. The reason being is that in original system they will have two sets of data. One is a smaller uh, 6 months duration data in the main live table, and the history table will be maintained. So whenever there is a query fetch happens, it will be on the subset of data. It will be very faster. But when it comes to more later date data, they have to go to the archival, which will be again a background process. So similarly, in archival also, initially people there will be a gap, communication gap between the customer and the archival team. Like certain cases, the data table will be smaller. Fetching the results is fine. Certain cases, the data is very huge. We have seen some of the JDA systems where even one single table has crores and crores of records, and data size, one single table contains 500 GB to 1 TB of data. So putting joint conditions around 4, 5, 6 tables with this huge amount of records will definitely hamper the performance of the system. So not to address this either, they have to do the indexing properly, and again there will be challenge during ingestion. If they upfront doing ingestion, will have considerable compromise on the ingestion performance. So should be a trade-off that has to happen on the ingestion timeline as well as the indexing that we do. Indexing can be done at the pre or post, depends. The other thing is there are other ways to look at, not only by solving the improving the hardware or the fine tuning the query. There are other ways to look at, since it's an archival system. Upfront, people will need only a specific set of reports, unlike original system, all kind of functionality. After archival, people would be requiring a minimal set of reports. Our recommendation would be to collaborate closely with the customer to understand their business requirement, prioritize only those reports, and if it is a huge consuming a huge level of data that needs to be fetched, it is better to go for background processing. Mostly people will be requiring as a report that should be supplied to the legal team. So these are some of the aspects that the archival team can um, understand the business criticality and suggest to the customer how this approach can be taken up.
Sure, Rajesh. So there are certain things that I would also like to highlight at this point in time, right? So there are different data management strategies that come into play, which will definitely need a good consideration when it comes to data archive. So, Rajesh, what do you think about people asking us to store all the data in one place? So, what's your opinion on that?
Um, it would be, I would say, it's again business case, and people can a little bit put some energy and effort, and they could have some uh, better data management. Um, is there any option to store critical data in one place and the non-critical data in other place? Usually people will oversee, again this decision people will oversee, but upfront, if the business makes some decisions on storage, it would be better. Any suggestion on that line you come across?
Yes. Yeah, Rajesh. So I was also talking about that only 30% of the data is always used by the business, and rest of the data is just lying in there. So what the approach could be like, you can have all your daily accessed, or the data for which the data access could be high can be put in a storage where it is high performance, and rest of the data can be put into a different tired storage, and with this you will be able to achieve a very good overall TCO of your storage.
So, other one way to tackle this kind of problem is data compression when we store. Um, when it comes to storage and optimization, people really worried about the cost of storage size. So data compression, um, and having certain data um, categorized in such a way that the critical most accessed data in one area and least accessed data in another area, these kind of things can help better storage management, as you highlighting it. um, so again, we talked a little bit on the storage as the time is running out. So I want to touch a few things on other aspects which is very important in nowadays with respect to security of the data. Um, how do you handle security in this archival process? Any insights on that?
Yeah, so there is no second opinion about security risks, right? So the day in and day out, we hear a lot of security breaches happening on organizations where a lot of personal data is stored, and it becomes very imperative that when you have data such as personally identified information like your sensitive information like bank accounts, credit cards, and things like that, right? So it becomes utmost important that you manage the data on a security aspect. You have a very good role based access control so that no data is getting compromised at any point in time, and everything has a granular access so that each field level can be controlled so that all the data is secured and you always have a very good security driven data archival approach.
Yeah, so what you are highlighting here is very important when we choose the archival system. It has to have the capability of protecting their data, sensitive informations like masking, encryption, role-based access, where customer intended to see only um, authorized data. Those are the important aspects. It again points out to the GDPR compliance and other compliance regulatory systems. I think almost nowadays the first thing they do whenever they choose a product, right? They will do all this security things cleared. Only then they will. The first priority nowadays is on the security aspect, whether whatever data that we keep is intact as well as secured. So whenever we choose systems, we have to look at these aspects very importantly. Yeah, as you said, rightly said, Harsha, you highlighted an important point. Um, so, uh, is there any other points that, with respect to cost, any other items that you would like to share, Harsha, before almost I think we can take some of the questions people have put
Yeah,
before.
Rajesh. So just to conclude on things, so once you have a good archival strategy in place, you are ready to decommission, right? So what are your end results, right? We'll just need to talk about that a little bit. So the end results will be you will have a very improved operational efficiency, you'll have a better resource optimization, you'll have an enhanced compliance and governance mechanism within your applications, and net you will have a better data management. So ultimately, you will have a very good data lifecycle management system, which is very much when we speak about these legacy ERP systems, Rajesh.
So on this line, for the viewers today, you want to say some lines about what is the first step towards this journey, which will be helpful for our viewers today.
Sure, Rajesh. So first things first, no shortcuts. So the first thing is a metadata-driven approach, which you will definitely need to take, and you definitely need to understand between your data backups, data archives. Backups are for recovery, disaster and recovery, while your backups are for data retrieval, for unknown data requirement use cases in the future. Once the demarcation is clear, then you can create a very clear data archival strategy that includes certain data management tools like Archon Data Store for effective data migration, implementing retention policies, automating a lot of data archival processes, and at the very end, giving out a defensible disposition of data. So this will be the approach that we would probably suggest our viewers.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Sham. Like we are almost on time. Before we close or take any comments, right? I think definitely this will give some good insights to the viewers. Though we have not covered 100% end to end, but I think I'm sure like we touched upon some of the important points people should keep in mind before starting the project when they deal with ERP systems. If they if they are not cautious, it's going to be a huge rework in this process. So thanks for your insight, Harsha. And you'd like to take any of questions the viewer has posted? You can see some questions.
Yeah. So are we optimizing the data storage in new application after migration, and how are we doing it? Right. So thank you for that question. So basically, see, we definitely can do optimize the data storage once the migration is complete. There are multiple ways and features that the platform does offer for doing this kind of an activity. So something irrelevant to data compression, or it can be something relevant to data compaction. So there are multiple techniques that can be used to do to optimize the storage itself, right? So there is storage tiering features that can be leveraged. So there goes multiple features along with this particular question.
Yeah. Okay. You want to take any one or two other? One more, we can have it.
Yeah. So, are there any out of the box features you would suggest for data privacy? Definitely. There are a lot of features that we offer as part of our data management platform. There are features like data tokenization. We were talking about data encryption, masking. We also have something called as data bunker, so which can do a lot of things, right? So basically, with respect to data privacy, is a main factor, right? So in future, anybody handling any PI or any sensitive information will be under the scanners, and definitely there are in number of features that platform provides can be leveraged.
Yeah. Okay, I think we are over time. So, again, thanks, Harsha, for your valuable insights and sharing some of your experiences. And I'm sure it will be definitely helpful for the viewers. And I importantly want to thank all the viewers who took their time attending this session. It's very encouraging for us. People sparing their time to get some insight is really encouraging for us. And I would like to thank, and I hope you will get at least some glimpses of what challenges you will face when you encounter these process. So thanks again, everyone. Thanks for your time. Have a nice day. See you next time.
Thanks, Rajesh. Thanks, Rajesh. Thank you, everyone who have joined us today. And if you are looking out to touch any of your ERPs, you know where to come. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Bye bye.